Hi, welcome back to my video. This video is amendment to my March 20 videos. I think in that videos we only retrieve the data for the public four-year institutions, and in that videos that we show the distance program that offered at the associate degree levels. But as we all know that most of the associate degree is awarded at the two-year institutions, and that's why I think that I should include the two-year institutions, the public two-year institution in the data, so that it can provide a complete pictures. So in this video I will not repeat the process, but I will show you what's the change I made to the data selections, and then we'll go through some of the data, and we'll concentrate on showing the data, the difference or the changes in the data. Okay, so let's begin. Let's start with the institutions and the basic tabs. And one thing I made a difference is, okay, now for the sectors I select 1 and 4. And if you look at the sector 1 is a public 4 years, and the sector 4 is public 2 years. And I also removed the degree granting checkbox, just because most of public institutions are degree granting, so it's really no need to select that variables to include that in our data. And now let's go to the majors tab. Okay, in the majors tab, I include all the levels in these videos. Okay, and over here I also filter that, so you can see we have a certificate 1, certificate 2, and certificate 4, and there's the definitions. Okay, certificate 1 is less than 1 year, certificate 2 is 1 to 2 years, and the certificate 4 is 2 to 4 year certificate. Okay, and for the user majors tab, and as I mentioned, we select all the levels, all the degree levels, and that's why we type in more information over here. And for the zip code, we do the same thing like we did in last video. And the only difference over here is I only selected doctor degree total instead of separate them to the doctor practical practice and doctor research categories. Okay, and now let's go to the query tab. Okay, in the query tab you can see we got a information from the sector 1, and we also get the data from the sector 4. Okay, and if we go to the product options, okay, it's basically the same thing, except that there's more levels showing up here. And again, we basically do the same thing. We defined all the variable for each levels. Okay, and the only difference I did this time is over here on the calculate value field, I include a certificate level, which is defined as the sum of certificate 1 plus certificate 2 plus certificate 4. Okay, And let's go to the plot. Okay, and again we start with a x-axis as a zip code, and we have one line that's defined by the year, one serial that's defined by the year. And I do calculate all points, and we go to the plot. And the plot, again, we start with the total. Okay, and that's what you see. And again, we see the 52, the business, and we see the medical, 51, and we see the 13, the educations. Okay, and if we break down to different levels, for example, let's just look at the certificate. Okay, I just look at the certificate just for the sake of interesting features. Okay, here you go. You can see this is certificate 1, and that's certificate 2, and that's a certificate 4. And they all add up to the certificate. Okay, so if you add up those 3, you end up with the certificate total. Okay, and we can also look at the associate degree levels. And that's, again, for the associate degree, you see the 52 is the highest. Then there's a 24, that's the humanity, and that's the humanity. And then there's 11. Okay, not much on the educations. Okay, not much on the educations. And again, we can see several lines if we're interested in. For example, let's just look at the associate and the bachelor. Okay, take a little time. Okay, so they are roughly in the same zip area. Okay, but you see for the associated they are higher, they have more programs, and therefore the bachelor there's less programs. Okay, and the next thing we probably like to look at is since we added the sector 4, the public 2-year institutions, and we probably like to see what's the difference caused by that. So let's go back to the plot option, and in this case we're going to make the sector as our series. So there will be 2 series, one for sector 1 and one for sector 4, one for the public 4-year and one for the public 2 years. Computer seems to be a little slow today. Okay, and now again let's calculate all the points. Okay, and that goes to the plot. And again, let's start with the total. Okay, and over here you see those are the contribution from the sector 1, the public 4 years, and those are coming from the public 2 years. And if we look at the associate degree, And you'll notice that most of them are coming from the Sector 4, the public 2 years institutions. But there are some coming from the public 4-year degree. And this is understandable since we know that for some of the 4-year institutions, they do offer the 2-year degree or the associate degree in the United States too. Okay, so that's understandable, but as we mentioned earlier, we should see that most of the associate degree coming from the 2-year institutions. Okay. And let's now move to do some of the state comparison. Okay, and one way you can do this is selecting the series as selecting the state as the series. Okay, and let's clear out this one, clear out the sector selections. Okay, so what we're going to get is we're going to get the sum of both, sum of the 4-year institution and also the 2-year institution, public 2-year institution, public 4-year institutions. And again, let's compare, let's say this time we do the Iowa with the Nebraska since they are adjacent to each other. Okay. Oh. Okay. Nebraska and Iowa. Okay. Let me take a look. That's Nebraska, and that's Iowa. Okay, then we calculate the point. Okay, and we come to the plot, and again let's start with the total. Okay, and you can see there's Iowa, and if you look at Iowa, it seems they got pretty high on the 24. Okay, and not as much on the 13. On the other hand, if you look at Nebraska, they're high on the 13s, okay, and they're not as much on the 24. Okay, so you can see this is this chart allows you to compare state to state, see how they offer the distance education programs. Okay, and one interesting thing is, if you look at associate degree, okay, let's go back to the plot option, and let's do this. Let's do a sector 1. Let's add the sector 1. So what this would do is that now we are only looking at sector 1. When you don't select, you actually default to select all. So it's basically select sector 1 and sector 4. But when you select 1, then basically you only pick the public 4-year institutions. Okay, and again, let's calculate all the points, and let's go to the plot. And now again, let's start with the total. Okay, so now all these numbers are coming from the 4-year public institutions. Okay, all those are coming from public 4-year institutions. And again, you can compare the Iowa and the Nebraska. Okay. Now suppose we look at the associate degree. Okay, and we do a plot. And you notice all of them are zeros. Okay, so what that tell you is that for Nebraska and Iowa, their 4-year institutions do not provide an associate degree. do not award associate degree. This is not the same for all the states. Okay, some of the states they do provide their 4-year public institution do provide the associate degree. And that's what we see in the previous videos, previous chart. Okay, the other way you can compare the state is by making the state as the x-axis. Okay, so let's select all of the state as the x-axis, and let's select the few SIP and select SIP as our series. Okay, so let's say we know we probably be interested in the 13 just because it seems to show up on lots of state, and we probably like to show the 52 just because it's prominent in the totals. Okay, always. So let's do that, do the 52. Okay, so this is, sorry, 52. Oh, 52 and 13. Okay, 52 and 13, and let's look at the sum. Okay. Okay, let's look at the sum. So calculate all the point. And let's go to the plot. Let's start with the total. And you can see for the 13 for educations, okay, and there is a 52 for the business. Okay, so for each different state, and you can see they have a different number of programs that's offered in the business and in the educations. So there's a different way you can compare the institution, compare the state. And as we mentioned earlier, that for this video we'll concentrate at the state level, but we could actually go to the institution levels. And maybe we can look at differently. Let's look at one. So in this case, we only look at the 4-year institutions. And if you look at the total, and they'll show you a different chart. Okay. Okay, thanks. I think this is all for this videos. Thanks. See you next time.